Hey, welcome back. The majority of us strive for happiness and peace in our everyday to ultimately better our futures. But for some of us, the prospect of aiming for more leaves us feeling anxious, sometimes even frustrated. And now a top expert says we can overcome these emotional barriers by tackling core false beliefs. Joining us live is addiction specialist TJ Woodward. TJ, thank you so much for being here with us this morning.
Oh, thank you, Taylor. I'm delighted to be here, as always, hopefully sharing some tools that will actually help people.
Yeah, this is really important. So start out by telling us what a core false belief is and how it can impact our lives.
Well, most of us, and maybe even all of us on some level, are walking around with some core, what I call core false beliefs. I like to add the word false because they're lies that we've picked up about ourselves. Most of the time, or quite often, they're living in the unconscious, and we might not even be aware that they're running the show. And so we come into the world as a blank canvas. To me, I would say I come into the world as a whole and perfect being. And then we get programmed by society, we get programmed by religious institutions, by our education system, sometimes by our parents, to believe in some way that we're limited, and we develop these core false beliefs. And like I said, they're often buried in the unconscious, but they're actually running the show.
Okay, so that's how these core false beliefs are created. How can we overcome these and move on and heal?
Well, we overcome them, and I often say this, but there are 3 steps: awareness, awareness, and awareness. And it's aware that we have them. Most of the time, or quite often, people are saying, well, I don't know why I keep finding myself in these same kinds of relationships. I don't know why I changed my job, and yet again, I'm in the same scenario. That's when we want to pause and unplug and say, I wonder what the core false belief that I am living from that might be creating it. And then we can have the awareness of starting to unlearn it. I think the key here is that we don't really talk ourselves out of the core false beliefs. There's deeper work that needs to be done and looking at where they actually originated. And for most of us, it's when we were quite young, sometimes 4 years old, 5 years old, 6 years old.
So TJ, when you sit there and you evaluate your life and you're trying to pick out what these core false beliefs are, I mean, I feel like that's a little overwhelming. Like, how do you even do that?
I agree. I think it can be overwhelming, and I work with people who often say, I don't have any core false beliefs. So we look at the repetition, the patterns that are repeating, and then ask, might there be some belief that you have about yourself and the world that might be contributing to this? And then we start to look at, not necessarily from a place of like trying to figure it out, but just from a felt sense, like, what is it that might be contributing to this? And then we go back and look at when we were 4, we were 5, we were 6. Our brains aren't even developed enough to have the cognitive ability to make sense of what's happening. So we often blame ourselves as really little people, and then that becomes like an energy that we're walking around in the world as.
Really interesting. All right, in our last 20 seconds, if somebody wants to learn more about this, where should they go?
I mean, my book, Conscious Creation, really addresses core false beliefs and how you can overcome them, because obviously in 3 minutes, we can only touch on it. So the book is called Conscious Creation, and that book, I walk a couple of people through the process of identifying their core false beliefs, looking at where they originated, and then most importantly, how they began to overcome them.
All right, addiction specialist TJ Woodward, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you. It's an honor, as always, to be here with you.
All right.